tubies. I think that this might be the most important lesson that we do here on this channel. Because more than winning tournaments and getting speaker awards, debating should be about personal growth and expansion. And I think one of the first questions that anybody on this path should perhaps ask themselves is how to get smarter. Okay, I realize that this sign is not very intelligent. It's like this channel backwards, but you'll have to bear with me. Before we begin though, I think it's important that we first ask ourselves what it means to be smarter. And it isn't my place to tell you what smart is or isn't. Just like success and beauty, everybody's got a different opinion as to what smart looks like for them. To some, it could mean getting really good grades and getting into Oxford. For others, it could mean being able to get out of a difficult situation. So I don't really know what it is, but for the purpose of this video, let's just take the operational definition of getting smarter to mean collecting more applicable knowledge. To say the more knowledge you have in your head equals the smarter you are, I think is half the story. I think it's more accurate to say the more knowledge you have in your head and are able to apply in your life or debate rounds, the smarter you are. So with that in mind, 5 steps on how you can instantly, well not instantly, but 5 steps on how you can move towards being smarter and winning debate rounds, keeping in mind that a lot of times edges give the win to the smartest person in the room. Not all the time, but a lot of times the smarter debater will be the one that wins the round. So being smarter should be your first preoccupation, even before we get into the technical aspects of debating. So let's get smarter. First step, The Economist. Is this sign also backward? No, whatever. Now, The Economist doesn't sponsor this channel, and this isn't product placement. I'm going to suggest The Economist because it is a really good magazine. One of the first assignments that I ever got the first time I was on Team Malaysia was to go home and read The Economist cover to cover and make a list of words that I had learned from it and make little fact files of every single article in The Economist. And this should demonstrate to you how powerful The Economist is in a person's intellectual development. Because a lot of times debating is going to be about current affairs, but it's not only current affairs today that matter, it's the current affairs that were current a year ago that offer you material for arguments today. Those things set up precedences that you can talk about now. So while it would be incredibly beneficial to you to change your homepage from Google or whatever porn site you're on now, change it to BBC or CNN, that would be beneficial to you. But where CNN only gives you headlines and some analysis, The Economist gives you in-depth analysis about that headline. So, for example, BBC would tell you 12 people recently killed in a bombing in Tunisia. The Economist instead would say 12 people being killed in Tunisia equals tensions across the sea in France, increased xenophobia, meaning less immigrants or refugees allowed over the border, meaning more stuff like that. It gives you a bigger picture about any particular thing. For example, like you can see over here, The Economist is divided to geographical sections, and that way you can get overarching stories from that part of the world. And as a debater, you need to have a grasp, especially for things happening in the Middle East, and in many tournaments, things happening in Asia. So over here you can see the title is Saying Sorry for Sex Slavery, and this entire article deals with the tensions between Japan and China right now over Japan's use of comfort women in World War II that they refused to admit that they did. But the article doesn't only talk about that, it also talks about the islands being disputed. It talks about one of Japan's foreign ministers calling a Chinese foreign minister Voldemort, and lots of other tensions that CNN probably would miss. So that's why The Economist is the first thing you ought to do. Either you subscribe online and you get it by mail order. It's a bit pricey, but it's a great investment in your debating career. If you cannot subscribe online or get a mail package, which I couldn't do for a long time because I didn't have a credit card, you could alternatively go to a bookstore near you, and in the magazine section you can just buy them loose every week, 10 ringgit, just buy one and spend a lot of time reading. The Economist. That's the first thing you do. And trust me, that will give you rewards beyond your wildest dreams. Next, step 2. Ta-da! Tough reads. A lot of you watching this channel will already be readers, and a lot of you will be reading a lot. But most of the time we read things that we like to read. A lot of us love fiction, perhaps, and that's great. Keep reading those things. But the next time you are at a bookstore, I would challenge you to wander into a part of that bookstore that you otherwise wouldn't wander into. Maybe the philosophy section, or the economic section, the religious section, the political science section, the law section, the business section. Things where big, boring books were written by old dead white guys and stuff like that. Stuff that you otherwise wouldn't read. Those are the things that will make you smarter. The stuff that it's difficult to read. The stuff that hurts you when you pick it up and makes for really boring, difficult reading. I'm going to quote X-Men First Class here, because there's a scene in there that's particularly powerful where young Professor Xavier is trying to train the mutants for the first time, and young Magneto is trying to get young Professor Xavier to shoot him in the head because he wants to demonstrate how he can deflect this bullet. And Professor X is like, I can't do this. And Magneto says, no, go ahead, I can deflect it. And then Professor Xavier says, but if you already know you can deflect it, why are you doing this? You should be challenging yourself. I think that's very true for reading. You should be reading the things that really challenge you, push you out of your comfort zone, and send you to sleep. Because those are the things that are going to grow your mind, grow the neurons in your head. The question that most people usually ask me when I tell them this is, where do I start? What's a good read? And I'm going to give you a few to set you on your way. The first thing I would recommend is this series. This series is fantastic, particularly this one. It's called The Politics Book. Big, thick, heavy book that you can kill people with. It's like Gandalf's spell book. And in it, you have a history of all the thought that occurred to our society over the years. So over here you can see, a prudent ruler cannot and must not honor his word, Niccolo Machiavelli. That's the guy who wrote The Prince in the Renaissance and came up with the ends justify the means. And you can see that they break the ideas down with nice little diagrams and pictures. Over here it says, the well-being of the state is the responsibility of the ruler. Therefore, and should be achieved by any means possible, including deception and intrigue. Therefore, a prudent ruler cannot and must not honor his word. Simple stuff like that. The promise of this book is it takes big ideas and it breaks them down into digestible pieces, which I think is a promise that it meets. I would recommend this one. I mean, they have lots of other books in the series, like the economics book, talking about big economical ideas. There's philosophy book, the yellow one, and there's psychology book. There's even like the movie book and the Shakespeare book and a bunch of stuff. But I would recommend getting this one in particular, because the thing about political thought is that interwoven into it is a lot of economic theory and a lot of philosophy already. So there's a lot of Hegel in here, Nietzsche, things that you would find in the philosophy book anyway. So yeah, that's a good place to start. I would recommend getting in touch with your philosophy. And there are great books out there that offer quick overviews of philosophy. A great one is Philip Stokes' 1001 Important Ideas in Western Philosophy. I lost my copy, but a link will be in the description of this video. Another one that's pretty good is The Great Political Theories, Volume 1, by this guy named... It's Michael Curtis. There it is. This one's pretty good because, as you can see, it like summarizes the things like Plato's Republic really well. And this was really good for me. Another thing you can do, if you're into like pictures and stuff, is get this. They have these in most bookstores, and they have them for almost everything. They have them for Carl Jung, Stephen Hawking, Foucault, Albert Camus, all the philosophers and thinkers of our time. And over here you can see it's kind of like a graphic animated comic thingamajig where they talk about big ideas but try to make it as fun as they can. It's a very brief overview and it doesn't tell you that much, but if a brief overview is what you're looking for, then these are good for you. This is where you start, and with this, more reading will open up to you as you go along. This probably is the most important thing. And I'm running out of time. I've hit 10 minutes. I think this is going to have to be a two-parter video. The other two steps coming up in the next video. See you then.